Okay, I'm in this book right here, and we're getting down to some graphic stuff. So y'all have to, for those that are kind of leery, I'm going to be reading the words from this 1953 book right here, Volume 1. We're in Part 3, Story 5, The Strangest Voyage in History. Okay? Borne up on the raging waves. On the, raging waves. Excuse me, the ark was swept forward by fierce tides and howling gales on the greatest voyage in history. Only a vessel of the strongest construction and the finest workmanship could have withstand the stress and strain of those few days and nights then, when, with awful earthquakes, all the fountains of the deep were broken up and the flood gates of heaven rained down upon their deadly deluge. Oh, there were nowhere, there was nowhere for the ark to go, no harbor anywhere, for all the high mountains that were under the whole heaven were covered. So it drifted hither and yon, rolling, tossing this way and that in a that as the terrific currents were going and returning, rising to meet one giant comber and would plunge down again into the throes of the waves. Comber. That's what it says. Comber. Giant comber. Ah, it's doing reference of surfing. Ooh, reference of surfing in 1953. Ooh, okay. Let's get back. Uh, Against into the thralls of the waves, only to meet another towering white cap rush towards it. Again and again must have been struck by huge walls of water that swept over it from stem to stern. Floating trees and logs must have constantly been a constant peril. Yeah, and I was just thinking here in just a second. If it's tossing and turning like that and everything, and you're waving and stuff, did God make sure that it had? Yeah, I'm gonna go a little sci-fi. Had the stabilization inside, like the anti-gravity. Oh, that's a good idea that just flooded my head. Okay. Floating trees and logs must have been quite a peril. That is, that it didn't capsize or sink is a miracle. Ah, so that's where I got the idea of it having the stability from. But I'm going sci-fi. Okay, let's get back. Conditions inside were hard to endure. The violent movement and the lack of light and fresh air, and worst of all, the uncertainty and the endless worrying how it would all end. I don't think so. I think it had that stability in the sci-fi. That's just me. I'm just I'm just reading what this says, but I'm thinking of sci-fi. With the that's just I'm putting my thoughts in it. Okay, let's get back to the 1953. See, I'm further away, and I like sci-fi. And it probably would make more sense because it'd be funny seeing an elephant fly across the room. Just think about it. An elephant flying across the room or a lion flying across the room. I mean, it would have some kind of stability inside, wouldn't it? Because when an elephant hits you, oof. Okay, let me digress and get back here. Big, and it might have had air circulate too. Hmm, just the thinking. Hmm, okay. Big as the ark was, Noah and his family were the only passengers. There was room for hundreds more, but nobody else chose to come aboard. And now all those who had refused to come were drowned. Everybody, men and women, boys and girls, in all the wide world, no trace of life was left. The old world was completely destroyed beneath billions of tons of water, and all the flesh died that moved upon the earth, both man and cattle and creepy things and the fowl of the heaven, and they were destroyed from the earth. And Noah only remained alive, and they that were with him in the ark. How God must have watched over the ark through this whole fearful experience. Do you ever stop and think of how much it meant to him? All his hopes and plans for the world depending on that little handful of people inside it. Only through them could God promise only through them could his promises be fulfilled. Only through somebody in that storm tossed ship could the seed of the woman ever bruise the serpent's head. How Satan must have tried to sink the ark in the height of the tempest. Could he have done so? He would have succeeded in defeating God's purpose. But the ark did not sink miraculously. It rode in the storm. And then down at the bottom has a long watercolor illustration of what it looked like. And then, of course, I like going sci-fi, and you would think that it would have stability, and I mean, I'm just clicking in sci-fi right now. Okay, and then let's go to this page, and that is the next page. And God remembered Noah and every living thing and all the cattle that was with him on the ark. And the rain from the heaven was restrained, and the ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat. Yet even after the dark had touched the ground, it was still no land to be seen, only water, water everywhere. The cessation of the movement, the incredible stillness, the fact that there were no big waves hitting the sides told Noah that the worst of the flood was over, and there was water, and that the water must be going down. The waters the waters decreased continuously until the 10th month. In the 10th month, on the first day of the month, were the tops of the mountains seen. That day day was that? What day was that? And what a shout must have gone up into the from the eight that of them at the welcome sight. Land, land, they must have cried, with the joy of those who had been long at sea. Now Noah opened the window of the ark and let out two birds, first a raven, then a dove. The raven flew happily to and fro, but the dove returned, and Noah decided to wait a week and to see how far the water would go down by then. At the end of the week, he set the dove to go again. This time it came back with an olive leaf in its beak. All were cheering at that, for it showed that not only were the waters still going down, but they were still at last a few trees standing. Noah waited another week. Then he sent the dove out once more, and this time it didn't return. And Dove and Noah felt sure there must now be much land free of water. So he removed the covering of the ark and looked, and behold, the face of the ground was dry. Then the rain stopped, and the sun was breaking through the clouds. The flood was over, and the strangest voyage in history had come to the end in the strangest way you could imagine, with an ark resting on a mountaintop in Asia Minor. That's where Ararat is. And here's a picture of Noah sending out the dove. And that was part 3, story 5. And we'll go to the next one.